What's up, everybody? My name is Zach Pasquarello, and in this video I'm going to talk about how I got a client who pays me $1,000 per month in my online bookkeeping business. But first, I want to give you really quick a little bit of background information about myself. I have had a successful bookkeeping business for the past 3 years, and I recently started making a bunch of videos explaining how I started my business and the tips and tricks that I've learned over the past 3 years that enabled me to get a lot of clients and build a successful bookkeeping business to the point where I was able to quit my full-time job, and now all I do is bookkeeping. So really the whole point of all of these videos is just to help you and to teach you how to grow and start your own bookkeeping business. If you want to have a one-on-one consultation with me, there's a link in the description below, and you can schedule a meeting with me anytime. I'd be happy to help you either start your bookkeeping business, grow your bookkeeping business, or if you are a business owner and you just generally have questions or you need help with your bookkeeping or taxes, I'd love to help. Okay, so without wasting any time, I want to talk specifically exactly how I got this bookkeeping client to pay me $1,000 a month. First of all, I'm going to tell you a little bit about what I was doing for that client and what I was doing, the kind of work that I was doing for them, and then I'm going to talk about how I got them. Okay, so first of all, the work that I was doing for them was not necessarily hard or difficult. It was more tedious. It took a long time to do the specific work they wanted me to do. And this was a business that was pretty large. I think they had been in business for maybe 10 years and they had several $1 million of revenue every single year. So they were a pretty large business. Certainly not a brand new startup, not like a massive public corporation or anything, but kind of in that middle. They probably had 20 or 30 employees, several $1 million worth of revenue, and they had a problem and they weren't quite sure how to solve it. So they needed somebody to match their receipts, like their paper receipts or their digital receipts, to their transactions in QuickBooks. They had somebody already who was categorizing their transactions, but they specifically wanted somebody just to match the receipts to the transaction. So what I had to do is I had to open each individual transaction inside their QuickBooks, search for the matching receipt, and then import that receipt into the QuickBooks transaction. So like I said, this in and of itself was not a difficult task. It just took a long time and it required a certain set of skills. It required somebody who was detail oriented. It required somebody who had a solid understanding of the QuickBooks software, and it required somebody with a basic understanding of bookkeeping and accounting, because I was matching these business transactions with the corresponding receipts. So I had to understand a little bit about where these transactions would be categorized. I had to understand QuickBooks, and I had to be detail oriented because I was sorting through thousands of receipts on a monthly basis. So at that point, I was charging about $50 an hour, and it took me about 20 hours every single month to do this work. And in the back of my mind, I kind of knew that this was probably not a long-term solution for this business, just because eventually I assumed they would be able to train somebody in-house to do this for them for probably much cheaper than $50 an hour, or just hire a brand new person to help with their accounts payable, accounts receivable, bookkeeping in general, and then also kind of teach them how to match these receipts to the transactions. But in the immediate short term, this business had a problem and they needed to solve it. So they reached out to their CPA firm, and their CPA firm basically was like, yeah, sorry, we don't really have time to do something like that, but we know a guy who might be able to help out. And I'm gonna get to that point later in the video. I wanna finish talking about my relationship with this business and kind of the expectations of the work that I was doing for them. So like I said, I knew that this was not going to be a long-term solution for that business. They were paying me $50 an hour, and they probably could have found somebody in-house to do it for $25 an hour, but they needed somebody right now, so they didn't want to go through the whole process of hiring somebody and training somebody. So that's a big thing. That's a big reason why people might hire you as a bookkeeper, because you don't require any training. So in order to hire somebody in-house to work for somebody full-time, like, they're going to have to train them QuickBooks. They're going to have to train them on their processes. So if you're looking to get a client like I did, paying you $1,000 a month, one of the best things you can offer them is you can say, hey, I already know QuickBooks. I'm already a certified QuickBooks Pro advisor. I already know bookkeeping, so you don't need to train me. That's kind of the whole point of hiring an independent contractor. You already know how to do everything. They don't need to show you what to do. You already know how to do it. So you can help somebody from day one right in the beginning. That's a huge value add to a business owner who doesn't have time or the money or the energy or the resources to train somebody else how to do bookkeeping or QuickBooks. Okay, so last thing I'm gonna mention about specifically working with this business was I knew it wasn't gonna last long. It actually only lasted about 12 months, which was okay with me. It was great while it lasted, but it was really tedious and it did take up a lot of my time. Like I said, it took 20 hours a week and it wasn't really the work that I wanted to be doing. It was more administrative data entry work. I wanted to be solving more complex problems. I wanted more of a challenge. So it really wasn't the kind of bookkeeping that I was interested in, but it did happen early on in my business. So I was happy to have the extra $1,000 a month early on in my business while I was still trying to get more clients. Not only was it a great opportunity early on in the beginning of my business, but it was also really great to build a relationship with just another fellow business owner. They were local to Central Pennsylvania, so it's always great. If you're watching this video, a good piece of advice I have for you is just seize every moment, every opportunity you have to build a solid relationship with another business owner, because business owners, especially local business owners in your community, are very tightly connected to other business owners. So if you're selling any product or any service that's business to business, it's great to build high quality, lasting relationships with other business owners in your community. That way you can network and build those connections with other people. And then finally, I was able to do good work for that CPA firm who recommended me. So the client that I was working with, they got their taxes done by the CPA who recommended me to match their receipts for them. So by doing a good job for that client, the CPA firm, they looked good because they recommended somebody who did a good job. So I kind of set myself up to get more recommendations from that CPA firm, because a lot of CPA firms, from what I've seen, they don't necessarily want to do a lot of bookkeeping or data entry. So CPA firms are looking for reliable, high quality bookkeepers that they can make referrals to for the more administrative, the more data entry tasks that big CPA firms might not be interested in doing. Okay, so that brings me to my next point. So I kind of, for the past 5 minutes, kind of talked about the client that I got and the work that I was doing with them and the pros and cons of doing that kind of work and how awesome it was that I got a client fairly early on in my business paying me $1,000 a month. Now I want to talk about two things when it comes to networking and advertising. So first of all, I want to talk about partnering with CPA firms. And then second of all, I want to briefly talk about Facebook and the pros and cons of advertising on Facebook. First of all, I want to talk about partnering with CPA firms. So there's a large variety of CPA firms, national CPA firms like the Big Four. Obviously, they're huge and they service massive Fortune 500 corporations. And then you have regional CPA firms, and they're probably doing larger local state businesses. And then you have like small accounting firms, small local accounting firms. And I want to focus on the small accounting firms, and then also the one-man show, the single CPA who just does taxes. He's just maybe one guy, one lady who just does taxes. So not talking about the big regional CPA firms. I'm talking more about the local small CPA firms who maybe have 2 or 3 CPAs and an office administrator and maybe one bookkeeper on staff. Very small CPA firms. I would encourage you to try to make connections with all of these CPA firms, because they are focused on taxes. They make their money doing taxes. They don't really, from my experience, they're not really super interested in taking on monthly bookkeeping clients. Like, they're focused on doing 500 tax returns. They're not focused on doing bookkeeping for 10 or 15 small business owners. So what you can do is you can network with those CPA firms, you can offer your services to their clients, and you can be a good referral for those CPA firms. So in my situation, I had them refer me to $1,000 a month client. I did a good job, and since then they have referred me more work. So you can kind of be a good middleman for those big CPA firms. You can do the work that they don't want to do, the bookkeeping work, and at the same time you get the exposure to all of their clients. Because CPA firms, they want, whenever it's time for taxes, they want books that are well organized, well-maintained, and easy to understand. So a big CPA firm, they want you as a bookkeeper to do a good job. So they're gonna look for high quality, reputable bookkeepers in the area that they can refer their clients to do the monthly bookkeeping. That way, when it comes time for taxes, all the books are good to go, organized, and it's easy for them. So it's kind of a win-win situation. They get clean and organized books for their taxes, and you get more work referred to you from the CPA firms. So those are like small local CPA firms with like a couple staff. And now I want to talk about one man or one woman operations, like single CPAs who like maybe don't even have an office administrator or a secretary or a virtual assistant. It's literally just one person. These people are great because they definitely don't have time to do bookkeeping. And I would encourage you, like, find one or two of these CPAs and really network and partner with them. Like, try to build a really solid relationship with them. What I do is I found one CPA who is a like-minded individual, and he does all of my taxes for me. So I refer all of my bookkeeping clients to him to do his taxes. I don't really get anything out of it, so I don't really care. Like, I always tell my clients, hey, it's up to you whether or not you want to go work with this guy or not. But if you want to, great. You know, he's a great CPA. He does all my taxes for me. But I highly recommend find one or two local CPAs who you can really partner with and really connect with for a couple reasons. First, it's good to offer full service bookkeeping and taxes to your clients. A lot of people like to have kind of everybody do it for them. So you can do the bookkeeping and you can say, yeah, I don't do taxes, but I partner with a CPA and he does all of my taxes. So, you know, we can do bookkeeping and taxes for you. So it's good to have that full service package to offer prospective clients. But then also it's great to have somebody who you can ask questions. It's great to have a reputable CPA who you can bounce ideas off of, because you're not going to know the answer to all of the tax questions from your clients. So what you can say is, hey, you know, that's a good question. Let me consult with my CPA first, and then I'll get back to you. That way your client knows and trusts that you're giving them reliable information, and also that way you are not scrambling and making stuff up and potentially giving your client the wrong information. So it's great to have a CPA that you can bounce ideas off of and that you can consult with on those more complex tax questions. And then finally, hopefully, as you start bringing tax clients to your CPA, maybe he or she will have some tax clients who they refer to you for bookkeeping services. So it is a two-way relationship. You can help bring tax clients to the CPA, and the CPA can help bring bookkeeping clients